Here we are back Monday morning, your disability rep, Roy Rickstrew, the disability guru. We're going to have just some anecdotes today, right?
Yeah.
Figure out what's going on. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be into that right after this.
I want to be your disability rep.
And we are back. So, day in the life, Roy Rickstrew.
Yeah, pretty much. So, we talk about a lot of kind of tips and tricks and just kind of general topics, but I thought I'd give a couple real life examples of things from my workload this week that I think highlight the need for folks to appeal, either with or without a representative. I think it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we mentioned one time before that roughly 2/3 of initial applications or claims are denied by Social Security.
Right.
And we could all rest easier if we thought that there was this really detailed, deep dive into what was going on and sound decisions were being made, but unfortunately that's not often the case.
Yep.
And so a couple of quick examples.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that Social Security does is they evaluate the work that we've done in the past, the length of time that we've done it, and they have to make a decision about whether or not our health would allow us to go back to that work, to that occupation. Mm-hmm. Depending on your age, they may then look at other occupations that are available out there in the national economy as well. But a couple things that I saw this past week that I think are good examples. Had a gal who was a licensed practicing counselor. So she counseled folks for a living.
LPC.
Very detail-oriented work. Social Security rates the skill level of work on a scale of 1 to 10. It's a 7. Mm-hmm. So it is highly detailed work.
So 10 is highly skilled.
Yep,
so
10
lawyer's
is
about
skilled.
a 3.
Yeah, depends on the lawyer.
Depends on the lawyer.
No, they're 7 or 8 is where they fall on that scale. But nonetheless, Social Security limited her to simple, unskilled 1 to 2 step tasks with no public interaction, and concluded she could go back to being a counselor. Now, I think we can all probably recognize pretty easily that doesn't really pass the smell test.
That seems inconsistent.
Yeah, it really does. And when we talk about human or public interaction, there's different levels of that too, right? I mean, if it's just cursory interaction in the convenience store, hey, how you doing? Here's your change type thing. That's one thing. But obviously, we talk about counseling or persuading or sales.
Yeah, that's high.
Yeah, that's high.
Yeah.
You have to interpret needs, evaluate a plan, a care plan.
Read body language.
Yes. A lot of nuances in that. So,
yeah.
Just kind of a really crazy decision that came out of that. We clear past work on her. That gal will probably get approved. But just a crazy decision that came out of Social Security.
So what does that appeal process look like?
Well, initially, and that's great. Whenever you file your initial claim for Social Security, there's immediately a reconsideration. That's our first level of denial. And it is a repeat of the same process that the initial claim was. Same department, same staff. Usually it's a different person, but it's that same general classification of staff. And they do a second look over. If you're denied there, then you get to go in front of an administrative law judge. And the importance of that is that they will bring in a vocational expert who will come in, and you'll get to explain to them what your work duties look like, your hours, your responsibilities, and then they will grade your work on this Dictionary of Occupational Titles. But you get that kind of expert there in the hearing, and more importantly, your representative has the opportunity to then cross-examine that vocational expert to protect you from any kind of crazy type things.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Now, having said that, I did hear a vocational expert one time tell us that a industrial meat slicer was not a dangerous piece of equipment. But for the most part, they do a pretty good job. Yeah.
Wow, interesting, interesting.
Yeah, which kind of brings us to my second example. A gentleman ran a carnival ride, and they said that he couldn't be around, couldn't have exposure to hazards. And they denied him back to a carnival ride. And if we kind of think this through a little bit, most machines have some sort of guard that protects us, right? In the event of a carnival ride, that guard is kind of the outer perimeter fence.
Yeah.
And the carnival worker works within the guard.
Within the fence, yeah.
Yeah, and so, we're talking about moving machinery that's designed to move with great speed or to twist or to turn to produce some sort of a thrill, right?
Yeah.
So, we're kind of on the upper end of hazards on that job.
Well, not to mention the fact that you take them apart and put them back together, take them apart and put them back together, which brings its own level of hazard.
Yeah, and the particular job, as it's classified there, those folks would take the rides apart, maintain them, refuel them, paint them. So, we have a height exposure a lot of times as well. But, just certainly you think about our carnival ride workers, they'll jump in front of the machine and slow it or stop it or push it to start it, or, they're working directly in harm's way.
Yeah, they really are. And he got denied, said, no, go back to work.
He got denied back to that job. When that job's cleared, he will probably get approved again. But, the underlying theory and underlying, I guess, point here is that Social Security doesn't always make good decisions.
Yeah.
And when you deny 2/3 of people, there's kind of this idea that everyone's going to get denied, and sometimes a lot of people get denied that shouldn't.
Sure.
When we move on to the administrative hearings level, we see 38 to 43% allowance rates, depending on the judge. And if you kind of reverse engineer that, there's a lot of denials that end up being wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Half the denials are
close to it. Half the ones that appeal, at least. But, but so many people get discouraged and they just simply give up when they get denied.
And there's clearly a pool of people there that if they'd gone forward would have been approved if they just stuck with it.
Yeah.
Particularly with a representative.
Sure. And the last thing is that when you request a hearing in front of an administrative law judge, there is a disability determination explanation sheet that goes along with it that gives the rationale and the logic. At a minimum, guys, push it that far.
Yeah.
Right,
'cause at
take
least
a
then
look.
You can see what they said, why they said what they said.
Yeah, and people people think that people Security law in general is just this incredibly complicated thing, and sure there are aspects of it that are, but the Social Security program is actually kind of grounded in logic. It doesn't always feel like it because we don't understand the logic, but a lot of this is a very logical program. And you can take a look at that explanation, and if it doesn't pass the smell test for you, then it certainly needs to be appealed.
Well, that's great advice, Roy. Thanks for jumping in and helping us understand a little more about the process and hopefully encourage some people not to get discouraged. If you have questions about an appeal, if you've been denied and you want somebody to take a look at it with fresh eyes, Roy's your guy. You can reach him today. You can scan the QR code on the screen or call the number right there. Reach out to him.
Yeah, please do.
Talk to him today. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
I want to be your disability rep.